Hey fellow tennis nerds, I hope all is well. If you've been following Swedish tennis, you know we've struggled a bit over the last 10 or so years since Robin Söderling retired. I think that was 7 years ago. You might remember that Sweden in the 80s and 90s had so many great players. Edberg, Wilander, Borg, Johansson, Norman, you know, there's so many good players. Then we had Söderling, Pim Johansson. There were so many good players from Sweden, but I don't know what happened really. I think that it's up for you, for the Swedish Tennis Federation to discuss. But generally, I think as a nation, you need to invest more into tournaments, more into good coaches, and to create a kind of tennis culture and use the momentum you have with good players. And I think overall that Sweden failed to do this, and the Swedish tennis failed to kind of create a good tournament culture and a lot of opportunities for youngsters to play. Sometimes the climate is an issue, as you know, but what we've seen from countries like Italy, for example, and Germany and so on, obviously bigger countries, but they have so many different tournaments and different opportunities to play and face stronger opposition, which helps good players grow. And you've seen the success in Italy, and you know, they have more and more tournaments. They have the next gen finals, they have the ATP finals in Turin. It's just a very vibrant tennis culture. So if you want to create good players, you need to have plenty of tournaments, plenty of opportunities for players to grow. No matter what, we have two players that are close or within the top 100. It's the Ymer Brothers, and I want to discuss their recent racket changes. As some of you have pointed out, they are playing with different rackets. Talked about Michael's racket before. I also want to mention Elias' situation. So Elias is the older brother. He had a fantastic run now in Pune. In India, he reached the semi-finals, lost narrowly to João Sousa from Portugal. He has recently switched from his Wilson H22 Pro stock, which is pretty much a Wilson Blade Pro. So the same mold, and the H22 is a quite powerful control frame, so it tries to find that balance, and many pros are using it on tour. And he's been using that, but recently he switched to the Babolat Pure Aero VS, and the VS of the Aero line has become such a popular racket. I mean, it's a very good racket because it gives you good control and good spin and quite whippy. And you have Alcaraz, who changed from his Pure Aero to the Pure Aero VS. You also have Holger Rune, the talented Dane, who also made the switch to the Pure Aero VS. Auger Aliassime, he's playing with an older version, but overall we're seeing that kind of 98 square inch, 1619 or 1620 in this case, spin racket is popular among the pros, and they can generate lots of racket head speed and power with this frame. And it seems to have done Elias a world of good. It's very hard to say what the racket does and how much is mental. Sometimes a switch of a racket can inspire you and make you feel like you're playing better. It becomes kind of a placebo effect. But that's also vital. Whatever you can do as a tennis player to generate confidence and good spirits and positive belief, I think it's worth trying. So he's playing really well, playing the best tennis of his life, I would argue, and reached the semifinals of the ATP 250 in Pune. We have his younger brother Michael, who's a little bit higher ranked. He is within the top 100. Elias is just outside. Michael has played a good year so far, reached the quarterfinals in Adelaide and now the semifinals in Montpellier. While Elias went from Wilson to Babolat, his brother Michael went from Babolat to Wilson. So he was always using a pure drive, and now he's using a Blade 98 version 7, actually the retail version so far, obviously customized a little bit. I don't know all the specs here, I just know the racket switches from some inside sources in Swedish tennis. He is now testing two retail rackets, so the 1820 98 and the 1619. He's seeing if what works best for him. I don't know where he will end up. Maybe he'll get a pro stock in the end and switch to Wilson. I don't know the sponsorship situations. That's always a bit complicated depending on the contracts and stuff like that. But as you can see in pictures, he has a blacked out Wilson Blade 98 version 7. You can even see that the paint is covering some of the green stuff, but it's showing through in places. So Michael needed more control, Elias maybe more power, I don't know, or at least a faster frame. But it might be a mental change, but they're both playing the best tennis of their life. So I think racket switches can sometimes have a positive effect. That's all for this one. I hope you found it useful. If you want to support the work I do, check out my extra content on patreon.com/tennisnerd or buy something through the links in the description from my affiliates. And I get a small commission if you do use the links at no extra cost to you. That's all. Have a nice day, and don't forget to play some tennis.